We're back on Last Call. Caden Colford and Jake Helton to recap a big weekend for the Greyhounds. Unfortunately, you traveled to Grand Valley State in the first round of the playoffs at the national level, and the Greyhounds fall 24-7 against Grand Valley State. Jake, you were actually in attendance. You were at the game with WICR and Jace Hodge calling the contest. How did you see it?
Well, I mean, it was a very big defensive battle. Heading into this one, we knew it was going to be defense versus defense, and that's exactly what it was. Heading into halftime, it was 7-0. The only score being a, I think, 40-yard pass coming from Odungwu, the quarterback for Grand Valley State. He didn't have too bad of a day, but this defense, that's what we're going to talk about. They forced 10 punts as well as 3 turnovers from the Greyhounds in this one, and on top of that, the Greyhound, or well, not on top of that, 9 tackle for losses for Grand Valley State, and that really hurts you. When you get behind the chains, that was what we saw a lot in the first half for the Greyhounds. Gavin Sukup really struggled to pass the ball, and I don't even think it was him. It was more of a secondary. Their secondary was amazing. Every single time down the field, there was double coverage on the left. He would look back to the right, and the safety was over top of his single route. So, I mean, really nothing going in the through the air. But on the ground, John Lewis, he helped him out a little bit. He had 120 yards on the day, so that's where we were looking in the second half, and Gavin Sukup was the one who ended up running it in, but really just nothing going through the air for the Greyhounds.
You know, you mentioned it was a defensive battle, and that it couldn't be more true, right? Both teams combined went, 3 for nearly 28 on the day, and that's absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. 3 for 28 on third down. Greyhounds went 2 for 13, and Grand Valley State only converted once on third down. So for the score to be 24-7 doesn't necessarily tell the entire story. You know, it's tough to go in there, and even in the post-game press conference, you kind of get obviously the somber vibe from Coach Keevers and the seniors and Gavin Sukup next to him. There's a lot to look back at this season. However, he had a great year, another conference championship for Coach Keevers and his team. And I was asking before this, as we kind of rehash these memories, there's so much to like from this team. Do you have a favorite moment, a favorite game?
Well, I mean, just thinking back to that Grand Valley State game, and obviously it was a nasty game. It was a back and forth battle. The Greyhounds didn't end up coming out on top, but I think that was probably the most entertaining game that I've gotten to call here at my time with the Greyhounds, and it was a very close game. Came down to the last possession. Unfortunately, it ended with an interception for Gavin Sukup, but it was back and forth battle. Saginaw Valley had a very good play towards the end of the game where they jumped up. The quarterback took off like he was going to run. He jumped up over his offensive line and threw a 70-yard touchdown pass. It was an electric game. Unfortunately, I wish the Greyhounds would have won that one, but it was definitely one to remember.
But that was fun because you're in the rain, balls flying everywhere, fumbles galore. That was a lot of fun. Me personally, I look back to Truman State when obviously we're still getting a feel for the conference, still getting a feel for the season, and you let one go. They return a kickoff, but the very next play, Marcus Gillum returns it nearly 100 yards. 100 yards to the crib. Greyhounds are back. They would end up winning that game against Truman State. I think that set the tone for them the rest of the season and their dominance in the conference, and that's exactly what we saw from them.
Yeah, I think dominance is the right word. This team averaged 40 points a game after losing, or a little bit over 40 points a game after losing that last one. So you look at this team, there's a ton of bright spots. Gavin Sukup more than likely will be named 2-time GLVC Player of the Year, and that's not an easy feat. But you look at the rest of this team, Clay Schulte, senior linebacker, he really led this team defensively, and he was the heart of this team. He was out there getting stops in this playoff game. There was a point coming out of the half, the Greyhounds got a 3-and-out. They went down and scored, tied it up 7-7. Got another stop. They were driving the field, and then 3 straight incompletions, and it was really just all Grand Valley State from there. But you look at the rest of this team, you got a lot of freshmen. We talked about Key Crow, more than likely going to be freshman of the year from the GLVC. So you look at this team, there's a lot of room to improve as well as room to grow. And I think that that's what we'll see. Coach Keevers always has an improved team coming into the next season. We've just seen them get better and better every single year, and I expect to see the same.
Offensively, you're bringing back pretty much your entire wide receiver room. You're bringing back Gavin Sukup. Barring any major changes in the transfer portal, anything like that, your offense looks pretty set. But defensively, the entire linebacker room is going to go their separate ways, and you're bringing a lot of younger guys in. How is a program, who do you lean on to ensure that nothing falls through the cracks, that you keep that same standard defensively?
Well, okay, and that's a process that's really already started here. And you look at people like your Clay Schultes, your Cole Veals, they've already been mentoring these people all season, and they're trying to prepare them for the next season when they have to take over. And like I just said, Cole Veal, I'd like to use him as a great example. Really didn't play much of his first 3 years, if any at all. Came in, started his senior year, and had one of the best linebacker seasons that we've seen, really competing up there with Clay Schultes. So you look at that, that's a very good example of someone that Keevers has put in the time, put in the effort, and it's shown. And I think that we'll see a lot of that, especially out of freshman Key Crowd. That's, like, in my opinion, the highlight of this team. 5 interceptions as a freshman is no joke. So you look at this defense, I wouldn't worry about it.
Bittersweet ending to the year as you look back at all the great things. And obviously you'd like to play in the second round, but it wasn't in the cards this year as the Greyhounds win another conference in their season. And as fall sports start to wrap up, we look at volleyball again. They made it to the GLVC semifinal for the first time since 2019, where they fell in 4 sets to Lewis. But this is after, as the 7th seed, they upset Maryville. And the Greyhound season in volleyball, up and down. They had a month stretch where they did not lose an entire match at all. And then they had, a pretty bad losing streak, in all honesty. You saw the numbers climb, but they rallied it back together, made it to the semifinal. Overall, a pretty solid season for them. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can't forget Sophia Parlanti. We knew that she was the best player on this team, but she went out and really showed it. 26 kills against Maryville, 22 against Lewis. And if you can't do math, that's 48 kills in 2 matches. That's very impressive stats right there.
Career high against Maryville.
Exactly. So you look at that, but you got to look forward to next year. There's a lot of youth on this team, especially in that rotation already. You got McKinney, you got Lynch in there. So this is a very talented squad, and I would expect them to maybe even take a step up next year and maybe compete for that GLVC tournament.
I know you're looking at Umsul and Quincy, who are always up in the rankings when it comes to volleyball, and Greyhounds look to assert themselves not only in the conference but in the nation as well. Coach Reed, like you said, has a pretty solid roster in front of him heading into next year. Obviously, you lose some key seniors, but that just comes with every year, and it's part of a program's, as they look to be great, you have to work through that. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to next season for the Hounds. Football, volleyball, every fall sport, and some of them still going. We'll keep you updated on that. But we're looking forward to some IU, some college football, and possibly some Notre Dame up next on Last Call.
Good morning, Greyhounds, and welcome back to your Wednesday show. We have some very exciting things to talk about with our very special guest.
So what do you find unique about UINDY, and what kind of pulled you here?
What are you doing?
Watching Good Morning Greyhounds every Wednesday morning at 8 a.m.
There's often a moment when you're helping somebody with math where they just suddenly get over that little barrier and they get it. It's a nice aha moment, and I really like being involved in helping students achieve that moment, and we do get a lot of those here in the tutoring lab.
Well, if you've watched The Last Call, at least in the past couple weeks, you've probably been hearing all the talk about IU, how great they are, how it's going to be a great game against Ohio State, and then you go watch it on Saturday. It wasn't atrocious, per se. I mean, one of the best teams in the nation looked like one of the best teams in the nation, and they put the beat down on IU 38-15. That score. Jake, I know that you're a big Ohio State guy and you watched this game. I'm not sure if you expected anything different. Obviously, you had the Buckeyes winning. I think I fell victim to, a lot of social media talking about how great IU was, but when they played this Ohio State team, just not much you could do.
Yeah, well, you mentioned social media, and after IU went down and scored on that second possession, the game started off with a 3-and-out for Ohio State.
Yep.
IU drove down the field in about 5 minutes, put up 7 points, then got another stop on defense. IU Twitter was going insane. Everyone was chanting overrated, everything you can possibly think of, and then it was just Ohio State from there. Not much going for them. They even scored at the end, a little bit petty if you ask me. But this was worst case scenario for IU. Coming into this one, we said if they can keep it within 2 scores, then we're talking maybe a playoff team. Now there's a lot of people, they're out on IU. 1 loss and they are out.
And it's not IU's fault, but as you look at their schedule, they have literally played the bottom 5-6 teams in the Big Ten, and they have not played anyone in the upper echelon of the conference, which that's obviously something you can't determine before the season even starts, but it's really, really not a good look for Coach Cignetti and this team, because you look at the resume, and I know we've talked, well, they're winning by 40 every time they play, and they're playing in the Big Ten, but it's really, really tough to overlook. This was a game that you really wanted to be competitive, and as you were saying, Ohio State was playing with this team by the time they were done. You saw some antics from Will Howard on the sideline that Coach Cignetti was not very fond of, and obviously the coach of Ohio State said no doubt. They wanted no doubt left in anybody's mind of where these two teams stack up against each other. What was the message sent?
Well, message sent, obviously, yes, Ohio State is better than Indiana. I think that, in my opinion, everyone knew that. A lot of people wanted IU to win. I honestly, as an Ohio State fan, kind of wanted them to win too. I thought it would be cool. But when you look at these stats, you realize IU is not a top 12 program. You look at the defense. As soon as Ohio State started blitzing, it was game over. Curtis Rourke could not get the ball off. He was sacked 5 times. Ohio State had 8 tackle for losses, and Curtis Rourke only threw for 70 yards, not even 68. So if that shows you, I mean, you'll sit here and say, yes, he did this against this person, this against Michigan, blah, 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 blah. You got to be able to do it against top 2 Ohio State, because that's who you're going to run into in the playoffs. You got SEC monsters like Georgia, Texas, different people like that. It arguably have better defenses than Ohio State, depending on who you ask, maybe even better offenses. So you look at that and you say, okay, IU, yes, good season, but in my opinion, I'm putting them in the same boat as your Armies, your Tulanes, your Navies. They're good. They're just not playoff good. I put them in a good bowl game. It'll be a very nice, fun game to watch on New Year's, but in my opinion, it's just not a playoff team.
You see, this was the problem with the 12-team format, right? Because no matter who you put at 10, 11, 12, they're not going to even be close to 1 and 2. They're just not. Never. Never, never, ever, ever, as long as this 12-team format is in place, will you see a 10, 11, 12 seed win. It's just not going to happen. The learning curve is too steep, because you have Ohio State and you have teams like Oregon that are sitting in the top 3 nationally that are just going to wipe the floor with teams like Indiana, wipe the floor with teams like Army, and we see that.
And as much as I do understand that, I will say that it's not going to be impossible, because right now it's looking like Tennessee could be a 10 seed, and I wouldn't be surprised if they made some noise. So when you have those SEC schools that beat up on each other and they end up in those 10 and 11s, that would be the chance that I see. But I get what you're saying. Boise State, they're not going to win a national championship over Oregon. Yes, they almost beat them, but this is playoff Oregon. This is a refined machine. Dylan Gabriel has his offense rolling, and I think that as of right now, Oregon is a clear number 1 team in the nation, and I don't think we've had that in, 5-6 years since Alabama went on that tear. So right now, it's, in my opinion, it is up to Ohio State to dethrone Oregon.
So those two are your those are your picks, right, to bring it all out this year? It's hard to go against that, honestly. And as we ask the question, is Indiana a playoff team? You say no.
Yeah, I just, after this weekend, I see how they compete with the big boys, and in my opinion, but I'll say that they're not a playoff team, but Boise State's going to get in, and I don't necessarily think that they're a playoff team. So it's one of those things where you have the 12-team tournament, you're going to have teams that get in that don't necessarily deserve it or might not be able to compete. And I'm sure Jace is very familiar with this, as Notre Dame got in the playoffs quite a few times and lost by 50 points plus. So it's not unusual to see a team of a lower caliber sneak their way into the playoffs.
So as we ask the same question, is IU a playoff team? I'm going to say in a 12-team format, yeah, they're an 11, 12 seed. But should they be in the playoffs? I don't think any 11 or 12 should be in the playoffs. I think we need to shrink it again. It's too much, and we're just going to see a first week of games in playoff that aren't going to be worth anything. Teams are going to lose by 40, and that's just the way it's going to go. And you mentioned Notre Dame, so we'll talk about their game against Army, and that was another game where I was like, can Army beat Notre Dame? No, they can't. Not even close. 49-14, Notre Dame with another statement win as they knock off one of the only undefeated teams in the nation at that point. And wow, just to stop as the Irish, they look to cement themselves in a playoff spot, a high playoff spot, after a tricky start this season.
Yeah, and I think they've pretty much all but done that with this win, another ranked win on their schedule. And when you only rush or pass for 26 yards, they threw the ball for 26 yards. Yes, I understand that's Army's game plan. That's what they do. But you're going up against, in my opinion, the best home defense in all of college football. I don't think it gets better. This is one of the toughest places to play, and that's why every IU fan is kind of freaking out right now, because the way it's shaping up, IU's going to have to go to Notre Dame, and that's not going to be a good matchup for them. So right now, you look at Army, like I said, a good team, great team, but not a playoff team.
Yeah, IU might have to put their money where their mouth is. They might have to travel to South Bend to play Notre Dame. That'll be something, and we'll have that for you here. But the Colts, they played the best team in the NFL, I think. We'll tell you how it went after this.
Are you feeling alone in your faith? UINDY Catholic gives you an opportunity to get involved in a religious community on campus, providing sacramental needs and fellowship for prospective students and giving you a sense of belonging.
We just want you guys to know that God loves you, He delights in you, and He's in awe of you. And we would love to meet you. So you should come on out.
UINDY Catholic, a community for you.
Lions were in town to play the Colts at Lucas Oil Stadium, and the result is probably, well, what you guessed, 24-6, as the Colts lose another one. Second game back for Anthony Richardson off the bench, and for him, necessarily wasn't a bad game. I was satisfied with performance from Anthony Richardson. And as you look at, you go back and look at the game, Colts lost this one, a drop touchdown. You're in the red zone, but a penalty brings you back. You have to settle for 2 field goals. Those were your lone scores today. And I know a lot of people are going to look and say, why is Anthony Richardson playing? But 172 yards, the completion percentage wasn't there. We saw a lot of drops, and a lot of penalties, and a lot of stuff that's just out of his hands. And you might have a differing opinion, but when you play one of the best defenses, if not the best defenses in the league, I don't mind this performance from Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, no, I think for the scenario, yes, good performance from him. But if you were to watch this game, I mean, he was overthrowing wide open receivers, especially at the beginning of the game. I can think of at least 3 times off the top of my head that either Downs or Pierce, yes, Pierce. Pittman had a good game, but I can think of at least 3 times right now that he way overthrew him. Wasn't even close.
I know what you're saying, but on some of these routes, I'm seeing Alec Pierce drift. You know, he's not sprinting. Anthony Richardson is going to throw the ball. He's going to throw that thing. He's not going to throw it soft either. He's going to throw that ball down the field, so you better get there. So receivers are turning too early. They're turning their shoulders, they're turning their body, and they're not running to the spot, which is why we see balls missed by inches, right? And I think these balls are overthrown to a point, but wide receivers have to know you can't turn your body. You got to look for that ball. It's going to be in front of you. And I think there's a little bit of blame, not just on Anthony Richardson in that scenario, but the wide receivers in that room as well.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like he's playing against or with Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I mean, these are, I wouldn't say bottom of the barrel guys, but they're probably not starting on a lot of teams in the NFL at this point. So that's just my take on it. I do think that Anthony Richardson played better than Joe Flacco would have played. I've appealed my decision to take him out of the game. I'm sticking with Anthony Richardson from now on, But defensive-wise, I thought they did great against the pass. This is a team that really likes to air it out. They really didn't give up too much through the air, only 269 yards, no touchdowns, but it was the ground game that really killed them. Jamar Gibbs, David Montgomery, that was the kryptonite of this game. And then my question is, where was Jonathan Taylor? 11 carries for 35 yards. What is going on?
I don't know. But even when he did carry the ball, he wasn't getting his space. And I think a lot of that's on the offensive line. But at the same time, we're not seeing any runs break out. So the offense just needs to figure it out. It's not Anthony Richardson. It's not any one person. But overall, Colts need a revamp. As we look at their next 5 games to wrap out the season, the easiest schedule in the National Football League. You're looking at the Patriots, Broncos, Titans, Giants, and Jaguars. Those are 5 winnable games. And if the Colts run the table against the bottom feeders in the NFL, we could see them in a playoff spot.
Yeah, I think it's a little unlikely in my opinion, but it's definitely possible. You get everything going in the right direction at the right time, you can definitely catch a little bit of heat. And this is the 5 games to do it up next. You're heading to New England, and probably going to be some snow there this weekend. I just heard that we were going to have some snow this weekend here as well, which not too happy about. But Indiana, they should beat the Patriots. Drake May, love him, but he's not that good. Patriots defense has seen better days, and I think that this should be a double-digit win for the Colts, but we will see.
My hopes are pretty high for Indianapolis, for Anthony Richardson, for Jonathan Taylor, and this entire Colts team. Like I said, not a very good schedule at all, but for some reason, the Colts can't beat the Jaguars, ever. Doesn't matter what year, doesn't matter where. Jaguars are always going to whoop up on the Colts. So we'll count that one down as a loss. Colts will win 4 more. You'll call them 9-7 at the end of the season. We'll see how the wild card plays out, and that'll be the story for the Colts. As we move to basketball, Pacers, they have a losing record to this point on the season, and we're starting to see this team lose confidence, I think. He won last night against the Wizards, who had lost a double-digit straight, one of the worst teams in the league. So if that's a confidence booster you need, then you have that. What do you think of the Pacers?
Well, I feel like my opinion's not really going to change much from what we've said. This is a team that could be doing better and should be doing better. Halliburton was asked why he was in a slump, if there was any reason, and he had nothing. No excuses, no nothing. He just said, I don't know. So you look at him, he's figuring things out. He had, 21 last night, 9 assists against the Wizards, a very good game for him. Siakam, 22, Mathurin, 16. So you're seeing good numbers out of these players. It's just the defense. It'll always be the defense. Can they come out and get stops? And tonight, they play a very, very bad Pelicans team. I mean, a very bad Pelicans team.
Yeah, but on that Pelicans team that has 4 wins, one of those wins are against the Pacers this year, which it's odd. But as we look at the Pacers, you can just tell that this team is, I feel like they're defeated, right? And you look at Tyrese Halliburton, people are asking about a slump, and he says, I don't know. I think this is the best thing that could happen to the Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. I think this is the best thing. People are finally starting to realize this team is not as good as we thought. And that's what the Pacers needed to realize this entire time. They're not super great. They're not. So once you get down to this level, you understand that we have work to do. We're not a winning team right now. Then that's when the work starts to get done. That's when you're getting off TikTok, you're getting off the social media pages, and you're getting in the practice court. You're getting into the ball game. You're putting shots up, right? This team needs to get better. That's the bottom line. And I think they're finally starting to look in the mirror and realize we're not where we need to be.
Yeah, and I mean, I look at all of these losses on their schedule. They're giving up almost 130 points every single game. And you're not going to win basketball games trying to outscore people. And it has been proven time and time again. They were able to do it for a little bit last year, but as soon as they got up against a decent defensive squad in the Celtics, 4-0. Like it was light work for the Celtics. So you look at this team, we know the steps that they have to take, but tonight, 4-13, Zionless Pelicans. They might get C.J. McCollum back, but in my opinion, this should be Pascal Siakam's breakout game. He should have 50 points tonight. He's either going to have Brandon Ingram or Trey Murphy on him. Mm-hmm. Who is that? So if he doesn't have 40 points tonight, then we might be using that a little bit more the next weekend.
So as we look at the Pacers, their schedule coming up, Pelicans, who have 4 wins on the season, Trailblazers, who are better than last year but not great, Pistons, and the Grizzlies. in their next 4. So if you need a couple tune-up games, you have some. Grizzlies will be a good test to see where you are in terms of where you want to be. So we'll see and regroup with the Pacers next week on Last Call. With that, it's time. Primetime Pick 'em, baby. Primetime Pick 'em. Caden and Jake. Looking at 3 games this week. We'll start with the first behind us. Ravens taking on the Chargers in L.A. Baltimore wins this one. Baltimore with Lamar Jackson on their team. They're going to take out Jay Herbo. The Chargers won't be a problem.
Battle of the brothers. I got to go with you as well. I'm going with the Ravens on this one just because when you look at this matchup, I don't think they can handle Lamar Jackson. I think he is probably the best quarterback this year all around. I think he's had the most consistent year, we'll say that, and he's been able to beat Joe Burrow twice. I think he takes out Justin Herbert and the Chargers here.
In terms of the Harbaugh matchup, John and Jim have played each other twice, once in the Super Bowl, once in the regular season, and John Harbaugh has won both of those, 2-0 against his brother, and he looks to make it 3-0 as he coaches the Ravens against Jim Harbaugh's Chargers. We're in sync on this one. Ravens going to win against the Chargers. As we move to the second game here, Bears going to travel to Detroit, red hot. Bears and Lions, who do you got?
Well, I mean, after watching the Lions this weekend at the Colts, I think that there's only one right answer. The Bears lost in overtime, I believe. Tough loss for them, but I don't think Caleb Williams can really compete with this defense, and I think that we see the Lions maybe even another 50-point game.
You know what? I think the Lions are really looking to pound teams this year. And if you want a team to pound, this is the team. The Bears stink. They're no good. They're finding every way in the world to lose. A Hail Mary, they can lose by 35, 40. Might break a record today against the Lions, who are the best in the league. I'm with you there, as the Lions are going to take this one. But hey, they had the first draft pick, right? They did. But okay, to be fair, I think they're playing in the best division in football. I think you're playing with the Vikings, who started strong, aren't amazing right now, but the Packers are always going to be good, and here come the Lions, who look amazing, amazing. Dan Campbell, the whole coaching staff. You have 2 legitimate RB1s that you run behind, probably the best offensive line in the league. So, I mean, we can only hate on the Bears so much when they play the best team in the NFL.
Yeah.
Third game on the slate, 49ers going to Buffalo to play the Bills. And in this one, I like the Bills. I like the Bills because the 49ers have been lackluster as of late, and especially going to Buffalo. We were in Seattle the other week, and there were more Buffalo Bills fans than there were Seahawks fans. It's crazy. Bills fans were here in Indianapolis, and there was more Buffalo blue than there was Colts blue, which is crazy. This team travels well. They won't need to this time. They'll be in Buffalo, some of the best fans in sports, and I think they're going to get one against the 49ers.
Well, looks like we're going 3 for 3 this week,
right.
As if you watched this past weekend, Green Bay absolutely destroyed the 49ers. They were up by 3 scores before the half, I believe. So, I mean, this is, in my opinion, should be an easy win for the Bills, but you never know. Coach Shanahan, he might pull something out of his back pocket. Maybe, but I don't see it likely. I think the Bills get this one.
As we look at our records for wow. What happened? What happened? How do we get here? 12 and 11. So, you know what, Jake? I'll make you a deal. I'll let you change one of your picks. Go ahead, change one now.
All right.
If
Let me change one.
If you want to be a winner, change a pick.
All right, I will. I'll go with the Chargers. I'll go with the Chargers.
You're taking the Chargers.
I'll
Thank
take the
God. I thought you were
Chargers.
going to take the 49ers. Okay,
Nope.
we're good.
I don't want the 49ers.
Everybody, we are okay. Things are going to be okay for Caden. We're going to bring back our second Monday football forecast, this time the Primetime Pick 'em. We're going to throw over the belt, over the shoulder again. We're going to have a graphic that says winner with that picture right there. That's what we're looking towards. Why the Chargers? What made you pick the Chargers?
Well, I was thinking back to last week, I should say, when I picked the Eagles to beat the Rams. Just saw the yellow in the logo, and I was like, you know what? We'll go with the Chargers. Really, in no rhyme or reason.
What? I think that might be a league-winning decision. That might just be a league-winning decision. Make sure to come back next week, and you'll see the outcome. Somebody has to take the lead. Somebody's got to lose. Caden and Jake on Last Call.